They say it right. All right. Good morning, everybody. Okay. So here we go again. This is now going to be the fourth time around for City Hall in your borough. This has been really a fantastic team effort. I want to thank all of my colleagues. We have now, for the fourth time, organized with a borough president. I want to start by saying thank you to Borough President Gail Brewer and her whole team who have been great partners in this. We've organized a week in which all of City Hall goes out to a borough and focuses on the needs and the interests of the people of that borough. And all of the commissioners come out and focus their energies. And what we've found time and again is a lot gets done. And it's a really healthy exercise for folks in government to get out of their offices, go out to the people, listen, learn, get that urgency back from people about solving problems. I'm really struck in Staten Island, in the Bronx, in Queens, how many outstanding issues got solved on the spot because there was a lot of focus. And so I want to thank all my colleagues for the good work. Folks in all three boroughs we've been to before were really, really appreciative and excited about it. And I know Manhattan is going to be great as well. We're going to be crisscrossing the borough and getting a lot done this week. I want to thank the leaders of the administration who are here, the deputy mayors, especially Tony Shorris, Alicia Glenn, Armenia Blasio, Richard Bury. Thank you to all of you for your good work. And thank you for focusing all of your teams on this effort. Now, I will say, over here in the corner, we have a Manhattan contingent. Alicia likes to talk about the fact that she was born and raised and still lives in the same zip code. That is the small-town New York City experience. So Alicia, true Upper West Sider. Tony, now living in the Village.
The last 30 years.
Okay. I think 30 years is good enough. It's good enough. But so Manhattan is well represented. But, again, people, all New Yorkers think from their neighborhood on up. And my colleagues understand that from their own life experience, and everyone around the table does as well. So we're going to get a lot done, a lot of listening to people. One of the best parts of this week is when we have the open house, and anyone can come in with their ideas, and we found a lot of good ideas and a lot of concerns that we needed to hear. Including some things that had dragged on that really needed to be addressed. So that is a very good part of this week. Look, every borough has its own challenges. A lot of commonalities around the city, but every borough has its own particular challenges. Every neighborhood does too. That's one of the things we focus on in this week. And if you spend time among New Yorkers, you're going to get an earful about the things that need to be better, and we take that to heart. That being said, there's some real good news to talk about in terms of this borough in particular, and it mirrors some of the good we're seeing around the city. Unemployment, for example, has steadily gone down in this borough. It's gone down by about a third in the last 4 years, now at one of the all-time low levels of unemployment ever in Manhattan. Pre-K, everyone knows, has grown all over the city. It's nearly tripled. Full-day pre-K has nearly tripled in Manhattan the last 4 years, and as the borough president knows, there's still more to be done, particularly in terms of finding space in some parts of Manhattan, but we are adamantly pursuing that, and we will get that done. In terms of policing, NYPD has done extraordinary work everywhere in Manhattan as well. Overall index crime down from last year by almost 5%, and astounding, shootings down last year to this 29% in Manhattan, which is a blessing and extraordinary. So a lot to be proud of and a lot more work to do. Before I turn to the borough president, I want to talk about what's been on the minds of all of us the last few days. And I will tell you, over the weekend, wherever I went, I was in Williamsburg, I was in Sunset Park, I was in Harlem, I was in Brownstone, Brooklyn. Everyone talked about Puerto Rico. Certainly, Puerto Rican New Yorkers talked about it from a very personal perspective. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who are still searching for their mother or father or grandfather or grandmother, family member, still don't know where they are, still trying to contact them. And then I've had those wonderful stories, including from people on my own team, of finding a loved one okay and finally reaching them by phone. But, we know what's happened in Puerto Rico is, the words hardly fit anymore. Devastating for sure, unprecedented, something that will take months and years to fix in a place that already was going through so much pain. So my message to all New Yorkers is we cannot do enough for Puerto Rico. We have more and more and more we have to do. We have to be committed to Puerto Rico for the long haul. This is part of us. Puerto Rico and New York City have been joined together for generations. And we owe it to the people of Puerto Rico who have really gotten a raw deal in many, many ways. We owe it to them to step up. We can be a real friend to Puerto Rico in this moment. And New Yorkers, of course, have responded with typical generosity. The donations at the firehouses have been and the EMS stations have been very strong. People from the city employees have volunteered to go down, and we've sent a team down already. Thanks all to everyone here who's been a part of that, to Lorraine, to Laura, everyone who's been a part of putting that together, Emma. It's very important that we provide all the help we can, and the team that's gone down to Puerto Rico already has now set up the operational capacity to receive more city employees who want to go and help. But the things that we're hearing back from our team are just astounding in terms of how widespread the damage is and how much people's lives have been dislocated. So we have a lot more to do to help Puerto Rico, but again, we're fully engaged, and I can't tell you how moving it was to hear how many people cared, including people who are not Puerto Rican, just New Yorkers who feel a deep tie to Puerto Rico. I was at Abyssinian Baptist Church yesterday, and I asked the crowd there how many people had a connection to Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans, and essentially everyone in the room raised their hand. And it's just an indicator of how close we are. So we're going to be on this mission for a long time. I want to thank everyone on the team for your great work. With that, back here to the home front, we are really looking forward to this week. I think we're going to get a lot done here, and I want to thank our host again, to Gail and her whole team. You've been great partners, and I know you will... Conscience, you have been a conscience, and you will hold us to a high standard during this week in Manhattan. Okay. Over to you, Gail Brewer.
So that's the gift, and I'll read the letter that goes with it. Okay. It says, first of all, we're delighted that you're here in Manhattan. You have to open it up.
Oh, I'm being given my instructions.
And I have one here. There's a bag that goes with it. You see, it says Gail Brewer on it. And there's a gift for Charlene in the bag. So
at least I think it won't be a Yankees jersey this time.
It comes with much respect for what you're achieving as mayor and for all the hard work it takes to make the decisions, having served with you in the Dinkins administration under Bill Lynch, whom we both loved,
Amen,
and in the city council when you are focused on support for children as chair of general welfare. This is beautiful, it's unique, it's made in Manhattan. Jimmy, the master cutter, has been teaching Katie Sue his craft. Jimmy was away this week, so she had to cut the gift herself. Yours is the first pair she has ever done. In order to get it embroidered, she had to take them around the corner to the embroidery place. She could do that and still be back to the factory to run things while Jimmy was away because, well, everything is right there in the garment district.
I'm going to give Gail her.
So
I'm going to give Gail her promotional moment. Made in Manhattan's Garment Center.
Is that the most beautiful you've ever seen? Jim Karras and I love the people who make it.
And they're so beautiful, they're above the gift limit, so I'm going to give them right back to you.
I pay for them myself, and they cost a bloody fortune.
Where's Zach Carter?
I pay for them. That and the letter that goes with it. They're just beautiful, and they're homemade just for you, handmade in Manhattan. Thank you very much. Welcome. I'm so excited that everyone is here today. This is a big day. I do want to make a couple of really big thank yous. The two agencies that respond most on letters, actually three agencies, are NYPD, and I see that there's a wonderful representative over there, Inspector Obi. I think Inspector O'Reilly is also part of Northern Manhattan. They answer every single letter. And DOT, thank you, Polly Trottenberg, answers every single letter. NYCHA may not answer with what we want, but they do answer the letters, so just so you know. So I want to give a really big kudos to that. The other thing I want to mention is just in Manhattan, I think you know all these issues, but the one of housing is the most challenging. And it's challenging because we have so little space. We've been working well on pre-planning. You know, if you talk about the Seaport and East Midtown, East Harlem is going through the process, and the next one will be Inwood. And it's a really big challenge to figure out how do you preserve the housing, the rent stabilized, build new, preserve the jobs that are often in the tire companies and working class jobs in the Sherman Creek area, and figure out, you know, I know you want to have density, but in Manhattan, we always have a challenge, perhaps more than other boroughs. So we will work with you, but be conscious of that, the issue of planning. NYCHA, we'd love to have more ULURP. I know that it's not mandated, but if you're going to do infill in Manhattan, because we don't want to be the cash cow, we understand that where you have opportunities to build affordable housing, NYCHA is one example where it could be done, but we would like to have more ULURP, even though it's not mandated. And I think we would still end up with a product that you could be proud of. We're still working on the voluntary inclusionary program to fix it. And then the Manhattan Community Boards work really hard. We have 12 of them. I do think my other colleagues may not agree with this, but I do think they need some more funding. We've been working with them on data, and this weekend I was at 2 data jams. And we actually could see where the community boards are working with us to be able to know exactly what are the issues and doing a graph. Believe it or not, Manhattan, I must admit, I was a little surprised. Noise is so far up in terms of the challenge, way, way up, more than housing, more than schools, more than anything else, and people are upset about it. I know you're doing what you can on transportation. I happen to be more supportive, you know, of the Move NY. I know you like the millionaire's tax, but you know, every combination to get money to the MTA, whatever we can do. I think the seniors in Manhattan need more buses. The MTA always says, we don't have enough passengers, so we're not going to give you more bus service. But everywhere I go, I hear the seniors and their complaints about the issue of bus lack of, and they can't get on the subways. The issue of sanitation. I think the world of your sanitation commissioner, but the issue of schools and organics. We cannot get the DOE, with all due respect, to be faithful in terms of the making sure that what goes into the organics bin is satisfactory to the collection. So we can't get that right. And so I'm going to try to have a meeting between her and Robert Troller, but also with you. Robert Troller was my student. He's head of the union at Queens College. So he does whatever I tell him to do.
Okay. Good to know. It's like Ron Burgundy, huh?
And I do whatever he tells me to do.
Okay.
The Blue Book at Education, we're still trying to make sure that the Blue Book is more listened to. That's obviously, there's always a challenge about what the Blue Book says, and there's different versions of the Blue Book, but just because I don't want to go into too many details. The issue of space, as you know, in the school is always a challenge. I think the quality of education is certainly going up, but we're still dealing with space in Manhattan. I don't know about other boroughs, but for sure here. We've been pushing along with your wife the issue of school mental health, because I know you're working citywide on this issue extremely satisfactorily, but we need a social worker in every single school. And we need not somebody who comes by once a week. We need it constantly, whether it is now Puerto Rico challenges, parent in jail challenges, homeless challenges. The counselors can't do it. And we've got to have social workers in every single school. We've done a report on it. It's a big deal. I want to thank the DOE for changing the discussion about making sure we have student volunteers who are social workers. They help, but we really need one that is there on a full-time basis. Summer meals, I think we're doing great. Certainly the lunch situation is fantastic. You have, you may have complaints about somebody. You have no complaints about universal lunch. And Turk, as we call her, we don't call her Barbara. We call her Turk. And Turk and DOE did a great job. So I want to thank you for that.
Has her first name, but no one uses it.
Nobody uses it. And summer meals, we got to make sure that summer meals information goes out with the locations before the summer begins for next year. I think on social services, the COLAs, I think you've got some of them built into the contracts, but that's always an issue every single year. And I know that with the homeless, I will do whatever I can. I'm more supportive perhaps than others. Any program, sheltered, run well, mental health, I will always support you. I remember last year I couldn't believe what happened. We were supportive of a really challenging mental health situation in Midtown, and then the owners in the area got together and pulled, because they got the bank to pull the mortgage. That was quite something, and very unfortunate. But I know that some of the HDFCs might be a place where the homeless families who are together, and there are plenty of them who are, 30% working, could in fact take some of those apartments. There's no reason you can't go from homeless to a HDFC with support. Steve has tons of money to do that, so we need to make that happen. I believe that as a place where there is possibility. I want to say on sanitation, it's always the issue of the rats. If you get rid of the garbage, then you don't have rats. So we have to work more on the garbage situation. I don't know if it's education. I don't know if it's, carrot and stick. But it's one way to get people to be more appropriately recycling and so on is to talk about rats. And so I know that there's great programs for organics and for clothing collection and so on. That's a big issue. Now, small business. I know you and I have talked about it. In Manhattan, the number one issue, along with noise, but that's probably 311, if that's a verb, more often. But the issue of small businesses. We just found 188 vacancies on Broadway from top to bottom. That's just one issue. But we have to figure out. There's no easy answer. The bill in the city council is not appropriate. I wrote it in 1985. It's been sitting there ever since in terms of rent. So I don't have the answer right now, whether it is how do you deal with empty spaces and vacancies, in addition to how do you deal with the rent issues in Manhattan. I know we're also dealing with the online situation. You order online. My kids order online. Everybody orders online. But there still has to be a way to keep the vitality and the diversity. And again, it's a conversation. I don't want to say that I have the answers, but I would love to work with you on it. Also on the issue is the commercial rent tax. I know there's a bill pending with Dan Garodnick in the city council. We have one that accompanies it. His changes the number at which a tax is paid. So you have more who are not eligible to pay the tax. We have one to eliminate supermarkets completely. It'd be about $5 million hit, not so much, in that area from Chambers up to 96th Street. Supermarkets are becoming an endangered species like the plover bird, and so are gas stations. We're not going to have any more gas stations in Manhattan and any more supermarkets if we don't try to figure out how to deal with those two challenges. So those are some of the issues. I want to say police community relations is extraordinary. I just saw the Inspector O'Reilly come in, and that Inspector Obi, I know she just went out, but she is the only African woman to be an inspector of police, and we love her to death, just so you know. Those are some of my issues. NYCHA is always a challenge, but we work well with them. And I want to thank you for being here. You know me, I could go on and on.
Yes.
But I really appreciate all that you're doing. We're working on resiliency also. Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate all that. So those are some of my issues. I have to say, only in Manhattan would there be a bulletin, training dogs in Yiddish. That's a new thing this morning.
Gail,
Thank you very much.
You've left me speechless several times in your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Typically thorough and multifaceted. Thank you, Gail Brewer.
Thank you.
And Chief O'Reilly, where's Chief? Chief,
right over here.
there you are.
Yeah,
Chief,
Chief.
thank you for the great work you do.
Yes.
You should be very proud, and all the men and women under your command should be very proud of the progress that's been made in Manhattan. Thank you also. Chief and I were together at the Global Citizen Festival, and there was a situation where it got very hot out there in the crowd and people needed water, and Chief swung into action, and NYPD and FDNY got together and distributed water to the crowd. And it was excellent, agile public service. Let's give Chief a big round of applause and thank her. So... All right. Well, thank you again to Gail and your whole team, and we will be following up on all these items and the 100 or 150 more you will raise in the course of this week. We look forward to doing that. So with that, thanks to the media for joining us, and now we will continue the meeting after. Thank you.